So this is a video about personality styles. I'm excited to share this one with you because it's super usable. It was actually designed to help hairstylists quickly assess who's sitting in their chair so that they're able to make deep, meaningful contact with all of their clients. As we're getting into this, if you have questions, type them into the comment section. If you're thinking, if you're watching this video and how you learn is, or how you deepen your learning is by typing things out, I encourage you to use the comment section. Probably other people will benefit from you doing that as well. And if you like a notebook or whatever your learning style is, I encourage you to do it with this video. In fact, you're probably going to revisit this video. Why do I say that? Because I have used this content so many times over the past 10 years. So you might save this, listen to it when you're on the move, just to get a refresher. What you're going to get out of this video, you're going to learn how to get along better with others. You're going to do that by understanding yourself better and then being able to assess other people. And sometimes, I think about like, oh, isn't this kind of manipulative? If you're a salesperson, are you doing this in a more manipulative kind of way now? Are you getting inside tools and how to coerce people? I think about what Andrew from Everyday Spy says about the information that he shares is, if that's the kind of person you are and you like to manipulate, well, I can't stop you from doing it. I don't recommend it. I don't think it works out well in the long run. The real purpose of this is for you to actually learn other personality style languages. I see it actually as caring and serving. So you're better able to communicate and help people achieve the results that they want. So that's some of the skills that you're going to be getting. One of the cool things about this too is that it reduces stress. Because if you're not as stressed out about how to interact with somebody else, less stress overall. And these are skills that you can take into your home life, with your family, your friends, and of course into your career. What I'm sharing here, there's a lot of research to this. So the organization I've worked with for years, the Foundation for the Realization of Human Potential, Dr. Bob Wright helped put this together, and of course pulled from lots and lots of earlier research. So one of the things I think is kind of fun to draw back on is that these 4 personality styles, it probably goes even earlier than this, but the Greek physician Hippocrates talked about these. He talked about the choleric, the sanguine, the melancholy, and phlegmatic personality styles. So you'll probably see some of the similarities here, but many people have done these over the years, given them different colors, etc. The purpose of this model, the CARE personality assessment, is for it to be incredibly easy to use. I make the joke about the Enneagram sometimes. It's like, you could look at the Enneagram, it's super detailed and it's good, it's useful. And yet people can sit there and talk about what personality style they are and never actually make contact with each other, like that kind of deep, meaningful contact. This model is designed to help you make that deep, meaningful contact. So that's the main reason I'm sharing this, and anybody can use this. It does not take a whole lot of training. Another thing I want to make clear is I'm not saying that any of these styles I'm going to share with you is like all one person. No, we're a combination of all of these. So percentages. The point of this is not to be super freaking accurate with it. There's things that are needed to be accurate with. This is not one of them. The point of this is to help you connect with people more quickly and to help you connect with people with more depth. So before I get into sharing the 4 personality styles through this lens, one of the things I want to say is about the law of requisite variety. This is a term that cyberneticist Ross Ashby used. And what this refers to is that the organism in any system that has the most behaviors available to it, That is the most powerful element in that system. I'm going to say this again. This is hugely, hugely important. And because any one of us can develop more behaviors. I think about people who I coach who consider themselves to be introvert. Fine. You don't have to be a huge extrovert, but you're able to develop some skills, some key skills, and you can focus them in meetings or whatever, that are going to allow you to have more behaviors. Doesn't mean you're now an extrovert, but it means you can kind of shift into that mode when you need to and ultimately be more effective. So that's what we're talking about here is I want you to develop more behaviors, to have access to a greater repertoire of things, ways that you can engage with the world. That's another key reason why I'm sharing this personality assessment with you, is for you to look at the other styles that people have and say, oh, cool, that's where I can lean into and act more like that one, because it's going to help that process. I am not just one thing. I'm not only this small window of a person. My goodness, there's actually a lot more to me. There's a lot more potential, and I can act on that potential. So again, there's other personality assessments out there. They're great. I've done many of them and have benefited from them. And so you'll probably see some similarities here. But the real focus that I want you to keep staying with is communication, is how does this help you communicate? So the 4 personality styles, what we're going to start with in looking at these is an axis of feeling and thinking. And what I want you to do before we even get into this is I want you to think of somebody in your life that you have challenges with. Could be a coworker, boss, spouse, family member, friend, or just somebody maybe you don't even consider them your friend, but somebody that you're like, oh, they rub me the wrong way. They piss me off consistently in our interactions. So think about this person. Or even somebody who's like, I just don't like how I feel when I'm around them. There's this person that I'm uncomfortable with. And just think about that person. I'm going to circle back to you thinking about this person in a little bit. Now I'll get into sharing the personality assessment through these axes. So feeling and thinking axes. So thinking people tend to be more to themselves and value thought over emotion. Getting tasks done over relationships. So on the thinking side of this, again, it's not that, of course, they have emotions and of course they value people, but they value more than that details, getting things done, and thinking about things. More of a cognitive approach to life. And feeling-oriented people are more sociable, relate to others, might not be as into facts, and value emotion over thought. The social feeling of the group. Wow, what did that feel like to be there? So again, feeling, thinking axis. Now the second axis is passive versus active. So think of somebody in each where people fall. Again, jump back to thinking and feeling. Somebody who's more on the feeling side, somebody who's more on the thinking side. Okay, now for the passive and active. Think of somebody who's more passive. Think of somebody who's more active. Where do they fall? So passive people tend to act shy, submissive, compliant, sometimes indirect, often indirect. Even just me saying that right there, you could probably get a sense of a way that I'm more on the passive side. So active people tend to act forthright, dominant, assured, direct. So again, passive and active. And people on the passive side maybe speak up more slowly, Don't speak up as much in meetings. Really kind of check things out before they're going to say anything. Active people, just, I got something to say, I'm going to say it. Now, people who are high on relationship, but falling more into the passive side, that's the cooperator. Very feeling, but more passive. This is the cooperator personality style. Now, if you're high on thinking, but lower on the active, and you're passive and more thinking, this is the analyzer. Somebody who is thoughtful, but isn't going to speak up as much. Thoughtful and detail-oriented, wanting to make sure that they get things right. Okay, now on the other side of things, we have high on active and also high on thinking. High on active, high on thinking, this is your regulator. Somebody who likes to get things done. They're out there, they express themselves, and they're more thought-focused. And then high on relationship and more on the expressive side, on the active side, this is your energizer. The energizer who is more in touch with feelings, but also more active. Speak up more. Which one do you think you are? Type it into the comment section. Do you think you're more cooperator? Do you think you're more analyzer? Do you think you're more regulator? Do you think you're more energizer? Where do you see yourself in this assessment? And if you're having trouble with that, then think about other people. Think about where you see other people. So there's primary and secondary styles. Most of us are going to have a primary and a secondary one. I'm an energizer cooperator. Well, my knee-jerk responses are going to tend to be more energizer. I make decisions kind of based on what's possible and exciting, fun, and also about the social feeling of things. I do have a passive side to me, and I am very thoughtful, and I pick up on other people's feelings, get a sense of that, and I don't want to hurt other people's feelings. That's a concern of mine. So there's a way that I will sometimes hold myself back. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not. So you might think about your primary and secondary style, thinking about, oh, at home, well, wow, at home I'm really a regulator. Because I'm kind of running the household, got to do this, this, and this. But you know what? At work, I'm way more of an analyzer. Totally normal. So we all are going to be shifting our go-to personality styles depending on our environment. But most of us really have a knee-jerk response to things. If you look back over your life, you'll start to see, oh yeah, yeah, I can access all of these personality styles, but, I really do kind of like one. One I'm way more comfortable with, and that's kind of my go-to. So again, what's your primary, what's your secondary style? Now, I want to point out something here. Some of the biggest challenges that we have is when we're with people that are polar opposites from us. So we have less in common, and we rub each other the wrong way. Now, that's not always the case, but that can be something that happens, something to be aware of. So as a cooperator energizer, the opposite of me is an analyzer regulator. And where I find this, especially when I'm doing a speaking presentation, and I do a lot of these with people in IT, engineers, who tend to be more analyzers, more regulators. So they're not as expressive. They're not giving me visual cues that I'm looking for. And so I'll often, what I used to think was, oh geez, I don't like these people. They don't reflect the way that I want to be seen back to me. And So I would either kind of put it off on them and like, yeah, I don't really like this person, or I don't like these people. Or I would blame myself for it if I was going to lean more into the cooperator side of things and be like, oh, I must not have done very good. I probably, and I'll just start going into that loop when in fact, it's just how they are. They're not as expressive as I am. No big deal. And so by knowing that, I can then even regulate my energizerness and focus more, speak slower, and make sure to give details. But really, a trick of mine is to ask more questions. Because analyzers are freaking great. They have wonderful questions to ask. And sometimes I know the answer to it, and sometimes I don't. But even if I don't, oftentimes when they're asking a question, they start talking out loud, and then they answer their own question, and then they help me have an insight that I wouldn't have gotten to. I probably wouldn't have cared to pay enough attention about that. And then it's like, since I don't have to perform for them, they just really want the data, they want the details, they want the thought. Well, I just let them do it, and I benefit from it too. So this is really cool. Once you start understanding yourself better and then understanding the other styles better, you get more creative. It takes the pressure off. You can know how to allow somebody else to help you. So, I went off on a little rant there, I was so remembering a talk I did where that was very helpful to me, was to be able to know, okay, I'm with a bunch of analyzer regulators, and it doesn't mean anything's wrong with me. And in fact, I'm going to have a blast with them. They're going to teach me a bunch, and we're going to have a good time together. Anyway, okay, so polar opposites can be the most difficult, though. And so now I'll share about that. So absolutely, I have had bosses, friends who are the opposite of me, who are the regulator, analyzer, personality style, and I'm like, I like feel like I'm on my toes or kind of backed on my heels around them, and I kind of don't like it, and I'm like, but again, as I learn how to engage with a regulator personality style, there's a huge relief in it. Regulators are great because you just tell them what you know. You just tell them what works. You're like, oh, I did this, it worked. They're like, great, thank you. Like, it's so clear, direct, and efficient. And that's wonderful. And will help if you can align with a regulator. They will help drive things forward in ways that a energizer cooperator like myself might not do. Okay, so more on this, but be thinking about people in your life who are the opposite from you. Think about the challenges that you have with them. Think about the feeling of like, oh yeah, that person, I'm really watching myself around them. And, start thinking about what their personality style might be and ways that you could interact with them to be more effective. So the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Yes! That's what I'm talking about. See, the whole point of why I'm sharing this with you is I want you to have a good understanding of the 4 personality styles, knowing yourself and being able to identify others, so that when you have that chemical reaction with each other while you're interacting, that you are able to transform yourself, that you're able to grow from that interaction. And the chances are that's going to help the other person grow too. So again, this is a mutually beneficial approach. And think about that. Cooperators and regulators. What are the challenges that they're going to have? Cooperators might not speak up with a regulator. They might just become like yes people and say, oh, yes, 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 yes. And the regulator then, can move forward, be driving things like, all right, great, we're doing wonderful. And then everything internally is falling apart because the cooperators didn't say, oh no, we need to look at this data and this stuff over here is really important. And I think you're wrong about that. A cool thing about regulators is a lot of them like want to be told that they're wrong. Like they might not believe you up front, but if you're able to get this across to them, like, well, thank you. I'm like, oh, geez, yeah, that's not the result I wanted. I want, the result we want. We want this thing. So let's get this thing done. Thank you so much for telling me that. And then a regulator, though, could also be when they're unaware of themselves and their feelings and how they can be domineering. They'll just be like, yes, we're getting this thing done. Everybody's saying yes to me. Great. And they're like not paying attention to some of the cues that they could be picking up about how things aren't really going that well. Think about the challenges and missed opportunities that can come from this. Yeah, put them together. What kind of opportunities do you get? Wonderful stuff. Again, for me, if I partner with a regulator, they help me drive things. It's wonderful. Like I just get more done. And then I can share with a regulator about how people are feeling. I can say, I think these people are kind of feeling scared about this thing over here, and I think so-and-so's feelings are hurt because I don't think you acknowledged them when they really deserved it. And a regulator might be like, oh my God, I didn't even think of that. Like totally, yeah, I'll acknowledge them. Why wouldn't I? Yeah, they totally help me. But they might just not even be aware that that's like something that somebody else cares about. Cooperator and regulator together, a match made in heaven. Well, we'll see about that. I'll just kind of throw some things out there. So like regulators are going to tend to be who you think of as the CEO or the boss of things. That's not always the case, but that's going to be kind of more typical. I'm thinking of like a regulator. Mao comes to mind. I'm like, that guy had to be a regulator. Probably a lot of leaders are regulator types. I would say Barack Obama, probably more of an analyzer, maybe analyzer regulator. Whereas George W. Bush, I'd probably put as an energizer, maybe energizer regulator. And cooperators, let's see, who are the cooperators? Cooperators are going to be often more people in the service industry or healthcare, because like they're good at it. Like they really care about how everybody's doing. So like they're going to orient towards that. A lot of analyzers, I think, get into academia and take that a long way because they like details, they're good at it. Okay. But again, there are lawyers and owners of companies that are totally cooperators. But now let's look at the analyzers and energizers. With analyzers and energizers, exact opposites. What are the challenges? Well, energizers just want to get stuff done and are all excited about what's possible. They want to push the boundaries. They want to go to the moon. They want to do that kind of stuff. Analyzers are like, well, what are the details? What are the facts here? What can we actually do? Analyzers hate being wrong. We all hate being wrong. We all hate making mistakes. But like analyzers really don't like it. Probably feels like a damning sin to them to make a mistake. Energizers are going to be more likely to be like, I tried, it didn't work, whatever. And that can drive analyzers nuts. So there can be a big disparity between energizers and analyzers. Things can really get into a lockup or they just don't work together. But again, if they do work together, we can go to the moon and make fantastic things happen. An energizer is going to be more about what's possible, the vision that they have, and then needs the freaking analyzers to actually help it happen. I mean, the stuff that we're doing with technology, like, you're watching me talk about this. I recorded this at freaking home. I can get on my cell phone and talk to anybody around the world. Like, that's amazing. Like that kind of like, hey, let's make this happen. That comes from the Energizer personality. But without the analyzer, it would never happen. It would never get done. You need both. So the analyzer, that is definitely my lowest. And when I take the care personality assessment, I am lowest on analyzer. So analyzers used to really piss me off because like they would ask so many questions and they want all these details. And I'm like, I don't know. And once I let myself say, I don't know, and I don't even, like, it's not that important to me to know. That's not my strong suit. I can get off on the thrill of knowing something, but like, I'm not going to actually put forth the effort to really get all the details. Then I can just say that. I can be like, hey, I need your help with this. Here's what I want to do. This is what I see as possible. And I don't know how to do it. And here's the rough outline that I have. Can you help me with this? What do I need to understand to be able to achieve whatever this goal is? And then like analyzers are amazing because they see reality and they see details in a way that I wouldn't even think to consider. It's really helpful. And it can actually have me relax to say, okay, great. I know some people that are going to help me with that. I'm working with people that are going to be able to cover my butt in ways that I wouldn't be aware of. I mean, how great is that? Again, the two poles and the Carl Jung quote about putting two personalities together. It's like two chemical substances, and the reaction that happens is transformation. That's what this means for us, is as we learn to engage and relate with other personality styles more and more, so many more things are possible for us in terms of feeling and experiencing the joys of life and in terms of getting shit done. Now we've been with this for a bit. What do you think you are? And if you haven't identified that yet, has any of this kind of helped you come to seeing yourself in what style you think you are? Go ahead and type that into the comments if you're coming up with it now. So now, the care personality assessment and creating rapport with individuals can be challenging when we don't see people, when we can't get all the visual cues. Like regulator personality types, they're going to tend to have very simple brand name stuff. Like they just want the best stuff. Like I feel like people who drive a Tesla are probably like regulators or maybe energizers. But like, who focus their time and money on looking good and having their stuff together and kind of clean and sharp. And then the energizer is going to be a little more funky. You see that with me. Like I'll tend to wear, a little different from the standard. Like even this blue suit, it's like really bright blue. I like that. Energizers will tend to be a little flashier than your analyzers. Guess how they dress? They are very practical. They're going to have the most comfortable shoes, but they're also going to be conforming to, whatever group they're in. Like, this is what works in this group and this is how things are done and I'm going to do it and I'm going to represent that by how I'm dressing. Oftentimes glasses, not necessarily. And then cooperators will tend to be more casual in their demeanor and in their what they're wearing. Cooperator might feel a little uncomfortable being too flashy because it's like, I don't need that much attention. That might other people might be a little uncomfortable with if I, in that way. I think of cooperators as like the comfy like sweatshirts and probably warmer colors or muted colors. What are those things? Corduroys. I think corduroys are very cooperator. Anybody, of course, can wear corduroys, but I'm like, oh yeah, that's a cooperator. That's how cooperators feel. Now, if you can't see this stuff, though, if you're just on the phone with somebody or even on Zoom where it's like, let's say everybody's wearing suits because it's a work meeting or everybody's just in whatever sweater and you only see from the neck up. If you're on the phone with somebody, how are you going to identify what personality style they are? So if you're on the phone with somebody, pay attention to the tone, the speed, the volume. Pay attention to how they're talking. So if somebody has a high, fast, and warm tone, what do you think that is? Hey, great. Oh, yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you about this thing. Like, who's that? Somebody's like, oh, your presentation, that was fantastic. I think you did great. Who do you think that is? Cooperator, analyzer, regulator, energizer. Now, somebody who does speaks more slow and caring, like, oh, do you really think so? Oh, thank you. Oh, really? Oh, great. Okay, now high, fast, and sharp. I want to make sure that we are efficient with our agenda. We've got a lot to cover. Who's that? Now low, slow, and probing. Now exactly why do you execute the process the way you do? What are the details behind this? Now again, high, fast, and lively. You've got to go see this movie. It's awesome. Who's that? Low, slow, and caring. You did really well at the demonstration. I really appreciated it. How did you learn to do that so well? Thinking about those, cooperator, analyzer, regulator, energizer. The low, slow, and caring, that's your cooperator. The high, fast, and sharp, like poignant, that's going to be your regulator. High, fast, and warm, energetically high, faster, and warm, that's your energizer. And the probing, the lower and slower energy and slower, more focused, that's going to be your analyzer. So these are skills to learn naturally in caring and connecting. I mentioned about trying to manipulate, like, hey, is this manipulative? Well, it doesn't really work. I mean, maybe in some cases it does, but if you're trying to use this stuff to coerce people, most of the time they're going to feel it, or it's not going to work that long anyway. So you really want to be looking at using it to deepen the relationship and helping them, helping the other person, learning how to style shift so that you're helping somebody else. That way, you don't have to worry about it. If you have the same agenda as you're working on a project together and you are kind of butting heads with somebody around something, just try it. See if changing from talking excitedly about what's possible, see if changing it to, okay, we really want to focus on the data here. What are the steps that we need to go through to achieve this goal? Just see. You might be like, wow, there, I had this whole story about this person or how something wasn't going to work. And like, I just changed how I talked a little bit. And like, now everything's running smoother. Cool. So even as you start doing this, you might be awkward at first. You might not do it perfectly, but who cares? You know, it's like if you've ever been traveling in another country and you make an effort to speak the language of the place that you're visiting. Even, I mean, honestly, for English speaking people, like most of the time, everybody speaks English better than I'm going to speak their language. But even when I make the effort just to say, like, hey, I learned some of these words and I'm trying to order in this way, like, sometimes it might be like a little bit like, oh, yeah, it's kind of cute. But it at least says to them, hey, I'm interested in your culture. I'm trying to experience this as much as I can. And yeah, we're going to get through this faster when you speak English. But now let's take it to a level of, let's say that it's two people trying to speak a different language and who don't. Like, I'll say a Chinese person and a French person. And let's say they don't speak the other language at all. And they're trying to communicate. Probably not much is going to happen other than the hand motions. But if each of them learns just a few words of the other person's language, it will go so much faster. So much more will be able to be accomplished. So even if you suck at this, like even if you're a hardcore analyzer and you're like, really, I have to act excited, like that's just awkward. I don't want to be, I'm not a rah-rah person, but like that's really outside my comfort zone. But even if you just do it a little bit as an energizer, oh my god, it goes so, it's like it goes a long way. Like, I appreciate it. It's like, oh yeah, like that person, like I know that this is not like their natural mode of being, but I really appreciate that they cared enough about me to do something outside their comfort zone to help us be in better rapport. That's fantastic. So again, I mean, thinking about that as you're like, you know, you might be having those thoughts of like, I don't, you know, things work pretty well for me. I don't need to do this. And it's not really my style and da-da-da. Well, okay. But think about where you would like some other results. Think about where you might want to be closer with somebody. And give it a try, you know? I think about parents with your kids. If you are super analytical and cooperatory parenting an energizer, that energizer child can like feel like they're on another planet, like, you know, that they're being raised by aliens. And by you being a little more energetic, that could be incredibly meaningful to them. Like, oh, yeah, I did come from these people. There's a lot of information in here to review, to play with. I encourage you to do that. Check it out again, circle back, and look over the video. And let me know what you liked about this, if there's more information that you want on this. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, that's more my professional social media page where I post things about career development, emotional intelligence, leadership development. Check that out. If you want to watch me jump into ice water, then go to my Instagram page where I share inspirational things and fun things I do here in the city of Chicago. I guess I do it all over the world. Last summer I was in British Columbia finding icy glacial lakes up there. If you want to book a time with me, if you'd like to do coaching with me, or if you'd like to just talk and see if coaching is something you're interested in, I'll provide a link down below as well in the description. And take a look and check it out. All right, stay connected. Hope you find this useful. Until next time.